Good morning, everybody. How are we? I'm 3 coffees in so far. I don't know about you guys. I have a newborn baby who was up pretty much all night. She knew that I had to talk to you guys today and have my mind sort of turned on, so she didn't let us sleep, which is nice. So, so guys, thank you very much for having me today. My name is Matt Doyle. Now, when I agreed to do this, I had a little bit of anxiety about who the hell am I? I'm a UX designer. Why should I be telling you guys, developers, what to build? I mean, arguably, coming through these doors in the next few days are some of the most brilliant engineers building some of the coolest stuff. So why should I come here and tell you that? But then, as I actually started getting into the creating the deck, and this is kind of like a few years' worth of thought process that I've been kind of mulling around in my head, I got really excited, actually. I got really excited about what this really means to our community of builders, our community of creators, and how we can all get together and build better products together. So, day to day, I run a software company called LaunchCloud. We're a software as a service for B2B, and it's a data management platform used to manage field teams and automate the processes they do. It's really exciting. We get to work on loads of really cool projects, and LaunchCloud has lots of facets to it that get us to work on really cool stuff. We work with Diageo, we work with Heineken, we work with the Woodland Trust, and some others that I have to sign NDAs on. And it's really good fun to have, be working on that every single day, and we get to work on, like I said, really cool stuff. And then when I'm not doing that, I fill my time out working with Virgin Startup. So I actually help startups and advise them. I do presentations for them, and I do masterclasses. In fact, because I've had so much sleep, I've got another one tonight, actually, in Paddington with Virgin tonight. And then before I did all of that, I would run product teams, okay? So I would sometimes be the first designer on the ground, designing the whole thing from the ground up, listening to sort of the founder's vision. And other times I'd have developers and other designers that I would be managing and making sure that we were on track. And when I first started getting those kind of positions, I thought, right, well, I'm just going to be like leading the design methodology so we can build the right thing. But actually, it turned out that it was about making change to the internal culture and sometimes the internal politics. And a lot of this experience came from working with American companies as well. And so I saw this rift that existed within companies. And I don't know if you guys have ever seen this sort of stuff before, but I would go into an office and I'd be like, there'd be the sales team in one room, there'd be the developers in one room, and then there'd be the designers in another room. And one of these buildings that I was actually in had these like Star Trek style doors in and out of. And you physically, if you didn't have the right key card, you couldn't go and visit the other teams. And then the other thing I saw, apart from being physically divided, was obviously a mental divide between visions and what we were trying to achieve together. And so what would happen, it's a true story. So the sales guys, right? I once went into a meeting, and we sat down. This guy, we were in Dallas at the time, and this guy had come over from Mexico. And he was going, I'm really excited about working with you guys. This guy owned like a load of hotel chains, and we were going to roll this software out that I was working on. And he was going on and on about all the cool things we're going to do. And I was like, we don't freaking do that. And we don't do it. And it had been missold and misunderstood all the way down the chain where the product really wasn't fit for what this guy thought it was. And it had already gone so far, it was super awkward. And we were kind of like doing direct messages to each other like, what the fuck? So, like, what's going on? And so that was one of those experiences. And I'm sure if you guys seen sales guys over egging it or marketeers going, this is the next big thing. This is what we need to be doing. So, hey, product development people, get on with it. Go and do it. And that what happens is this stuff's unvalidated. And it probably happens to designers as well. Designers say, here's the UI, crack on. And you're like, what? Why are we doing this? So these are some of the things I think are quite common. So have you ever done a ton of work and you just see zero impact? I want to see some hands if these are relevant to anyone. Yeah. Oh my goodness, this is best case scenario for me that everyone roughly agrees. Have you ever been asked to build something but don't get told why? You can keep your hands up if you want. And then, have you ever been told to make something, then told, no, that's not what I wanted? Yeah, so freelancers and in companies, right? And then designers giving you a screen and go, there you go, but not giving you the 20 other screens and flows behind that, right? And then making something and it never gets used. Well done. Right, so am I taking crazy pills? I think that's the thing that springs to mind when I was writing that, because that's how it felt. So, guys, what I'm trying to achieve by us starting this dialect together for our community is that we can start a movement of getting the power back in product validation, right, and how that looks inside an organization. And like I said, sometimes you do need to lead that charge, and you need to sort of lead the cultural change that sometimes needs to occur in an organization. And so one of the ways you've probably heard of this being spoken about is design thinking. And unfortunately, it's the last Will Ferrell kind of like picture we're going to have today, but it's about defending that product with like a product evangelist team and being the evangelist that you're trying to make the right thing for the customer, you're trying to make the right thing for the user and for the company. So we need to have the tools that help us equip ourselves, not necessarily a grenade, but other tools that can help equip us to defending what the right thing is to do. So we need to take it up a notch. I mean, the real reason we want to do this about building the right thing, right? We want to build better products. We want to build better services for customers and users. So what I'm trying to show here is that the bar is so much higher now. Like when I first started making websites, we had like our own Jackass style thing, right? And we would do videos, silly videos, and we would upload them. But there was no YouTube, right? So there was no YouTube, so we had to work out how to get videos on a website and how to get that to sort of download in a decent time. And we were only kids, so like we didn't know the best way to do it, and there really was no good way of doing it in those days. And so it was, can we do this? Was a lot of the time we were asking ourselves, can this actually be done? Not, should it be done? And nowadays we've got things like Bootstrap, so frameworks to quickly, rapidly build UIs that are responsive straight away. We've got code frameworks. I've used the Laravel as an example. I know not everyone's PHP, but codal frameworks to give us a basis to work from. And then we've got pre-made libraries just out of the box. So don't need to worry about that. Don't need to reinvent the wheel. These things already exist. And then design frameworks to give us direction on how to do things. So I don't know if anyone's familiar with material design. So that's the Google design framework. And it's online. It's available to see what the do's and the don'ts about how material design works. So the blueprints are there to just deploy something really, really rapidly. And I'm sure you guys utilize tools like this all the time and every day. And because they exist, guys, now the bar is this high. Anyone can just pop out a bootstrapped website, a bootstrapped app, and they all kind of starting to look very samey. I think we're all familiar with that kind of like that look of a back-end system, how it's looking with the navigation down the left-hand side, and that iconography that is like used time and time again. And there's merit in consistency, and that's why I buy into the material design concepts. But they're starting to look very samey. And design isn't just about making something look pretty, right? Design isn't art. It's about actually creating something bigger than just a piece of art. It's about being used. So we need to have better levels of communication, and so we can actually build more interesting products that actually serve a purpose better. So another name for this is design ops. Okay, so the two goals of design ops is to set up the team for success to increase the investment that we're already doing in design. So if we've got these kind of design ops processes in place, we can start having the grease that we need to build better things. So when I was looking into this, I looked at some other kind of articles that were talking about this subject, and Envision had done a load of interviewing and stuff with Facebook and some of the guys there. I don't know if anyone's from Facebook, actually. But so the Facebook product team person recommended that designers mingle with content strategists, engineers, researchers, product managers to talk about process and not the project. So talking about how we go about things, how we understand the way they go about their role and their job. So this is one of the quotes here. As a designer, the more you understand about the team's engineering process and toolset and vice versa, the easier collaboration will come, right? So out of this room, I presume we're all developers or engineers? Hands up? Okay, yeah, a good amount. So do you guys feel like your design team, your co-workers, understand the processes that you go through or the dependencies the code has? Yes and no. No, no hands. Oh, okay. Very interesting. So we want to try and help them and help everyone get on the same page with that sort of stuff. And so what I'm proposing and what we do when I run product teams or what we do at Launch Cloud is we make sure that designers understand the code dependencies. So what plugins are being used, what libraries are being used, and how the thing is put together and how well made certain parts are. Like, does this need some more additional work before we can grow it? Is this pretty good and we could just scale it out in different versions? And we have everybody in the team pretty has a very good understanding of what's going on in our development life cycle. And then developers understanding the customer needs and the customer journeys. And obviously that's the onus is on both sides, communicating these messages to each other, okay? So the designer is explaining why they're making certain decisions to design something a certain way, and developers feeding back what's going on. It doesn't happen overnight, but you have regular product meetings. Does anyone have product meetings that are set? Okay, again, this is good because hopefully we can get inspired by this because we probably have stand-ups for what's on work-wise, but product is actually us all coming together and talking about the product and how all of the facets fit in. So a product team should look a bit like this. You get customer validation coming in. That could come in from sales and it could come in from other places as well. But the idea is you know what you should be building. And then it comes through the designer. So the designer's kind of leading the charge on what we're doing and what it should look like and feel like. And then the developer's building it and it goes through your current testing and deployment and then you've got a live product at the end. Very simplified. And all the way along, you should be trying to use lean methodology. We had a question over here just before we started about lean. Is anyone, raise your hand if you're familiar with lean. Okay, still a good amount. That's good. So that's a good sign as well. So the Lean Startup was one of the first books that Eric Ries wrote about lean methodology. And it came from manufacturing, actually, manufacturing cars. I think it was Honda. I don't want to... Toyota, thank you. And so what would happen, the idea was if you had to shut off the manufacturing, you'd have quite a few completed cars and not loads of half-finished cars. And then that translated into startup and it translated into UX and development so that you didn't build too much that was useless. So that second slide where we talked about have you ever seen these things before don't happen too much. So it's about having a hypothesis, like this user has said this and I reckon if we build this, that will fix their problem, or that will increase sales, or it will increase adoption. So you build it, but you build not too much. You build the MVP, the minimum viable product, to test if that hypothesis is correct. One of the famous examples, actually, is probably Airbnb. So Airbnb, just right before they kind of had an explosion of growth, they had this hypothesis that they want better. If they took better images, better photos of the apartments, they would get more bookings. That was their hypothesis. So what could they have done? Like some of us might go and build an automatic, take a picture, upload it, it resizes it, it puts it into the listing, all beautifully done. But they didn't do that. They went, right, what's the least amount of work we can do to see if this is a good hypothesis? So they hired a photographer who went out and took photos. He uploaded them to Dropbox. They took them off Dropbox. They manually uploaded them and proved that there was a spike in adoption of those properties. So they measured it. They actually measured how successful that was. And this is really, really important that we measure success or failure, and then we learn from it, obviously, hopefully, and then we feed that back in and we decide we're going to build more or we're going to adapt or change. So that's lean in a nutshell. And what lean's designed to help us to do is to evaluate time and value of what we're actually doing. So I find that it's really helpful to ask yourself these two questions, was what does success look like? That's a very consultative thing that the consultants do, which is I used to ask clients this when I was doing freelance work, like, what is the ideal outcome for you? And to really sort of nail that down. And it's not necessarily a feature, it's sometimes an outcome for a customer that is easier to use. It takes this time, and now we reduce the time. And what is the least we can build to fix this user's problem? And I always try and bring it back to the user, because ultimately we all have customers, we all have users, and if they stop using our stuff, we're stuffed. So data-driven sharing is important, guys, because we all love data, right? We all love data and how powerful it is. Anecdotal stuff is useful, right? Anecdotal feedback from the sales team is useful. Conversations you have with customers are useful. But if we can back that up with some data as well, we can make better decisions about that measurement, right? So another quote here, which is the people making the decisions on the product need to be the best informed, and not just in their one head. So it's that sharing within the team as well. So the idea would be that designers can get hold of user data, and they could be pulling that out of something like Mixpanel. Have we heard of Mixpanel? Okay, a few of them. So Mixpanel is a very, very powerful tool, and they'd help you quite a bit, actually. They give you this Excel spreadsheet, which you have to fill in. It helps track all the user journeys that are important for you. So a designer should take that on themselves to set that up and get that working. Intercom is on the left. Intercom might be known as a bit of a support software, but we actually use it internally to track where the traffic's come from, the behavior they've taken inside our app in a very simple way. And then as a designer, and the product lead, I can be more informed about the problems that people are having, where they're not getting on with things, how we could maybe change UI. So that's what the designer should be bringing to the mix. Sales should be bringing more this anecdotal things like, oh my goodness, your software needs this, or needs that. Okay, great. We'll take that on board. And then you bring it into the product meetings. And then tracking through dev. So like, what's our API calls? How is that being affected? How does that impact on our loading times and things like that? So any data points you can help people with in the product meetings to pull in actual hard facts. So I love Kanban. Again, can I see another show of hands, please, on Kanban? Oh, awesome. Right. So Trello and Asana are obviously two of the biggest. Others do exist. But these are the sort of the bars or the Kanbans that I like to do, that I feel like this is a good sort of space to start from. So backlog, and we call that our hopes and dreams. Like all these cool ideas we have, because we all have cool ideas. Wouldn't this be cool? Wouldn't this be cool? And you put them in there, and anything that came from the sales team, anything came up from your chats, like, hey, we could make this easier to share, or we could make this whatever, that goes into your hopes and dreams. And then people who don't know Kanban, what you do is you progress your cards across the board. And then you scope it out and you build a case. And I think a good case always starts with a good story. What is the story that we're fixing? Whose problem are we fixing? Try and describe that customer and what they ran into. And then obviously the next tick is, does it apply to others? Right? So at LaunchCloud, we're doing like I said, we help field teams, and we're doing a bit around chat. And I was a little bit on the fence whether we should do it, because there's a ton of chat things out there that people want to use, right? But we saw it time and time again where people were needing to communicate better or unhappy with the current tools in the markets that we work in. And we also have cron tasks and bots that we actually deliver through SMS and email at the moment, but the chat interface would be really cool. So I went around and I asked a number of customers, if we had this, would you be interested? And then I did a design, said, if it looked like this, would you be interested? And actually reimagined what it would look like for our customers. So I was kind of constantly questioning myself whether we should be undertaking this or going in this direction for our users. So we scope it out, and you scope it out with that research and the customer stories. And then the idea is you move it across to on deck. So we're all working on it. We're going to do this. And then testing and deployment through. You might have other stages in that need to happen, but the idea of lean and the idea of lean's very satisfying, right? Because you can get stuff done, you can get it through. So try and keep those stages down. But what happens, guys, when cards get stuck? We've all seen it, where they just kind of like don't seem to work their way through the board. They live in hopes and dreams forever. And some of the questions you could ask yourself: should it still be there? So in these product meetings, you could chat about some of these features that have been sitting there for a while, like, do we even need it? Is it just clogging up our vision of what's important for people? Can we get rid of it? And then, can we get something small alive? And that, for me, is one of the most important things about lean and about trying to rapidly deploy. And so if I use our chat example, we've got all these cool ideas about how we're going to do some crazy automation and all sorts of cool stuff. But I just said, look, let's just get two-way messaging working between our teams and our users, and get that deployed into our app. We can do that really quite quickly, and we can then learn like crazy and learn people's feedback. And those people I sort of spoke to in the early days have already said, as soon as you get that, we'd love to start using it. So we can immediately get feedback and do something about it. And then can we all work on it? So that's kind of a very sort of project management friendly thing. So can we all just pile on it and just push it out? If it's that important, can we all just pile on it and get it done? So another thing about design ops is that design ops should be the grease, the rails, the engine to make design process and method as a craft possible. So we put all these things in place so we can keep that train chugging along, keep that product going, keep deploying fast, and keep deploying the right things. So that example I gave where the sliding doors, right, the Star Trek doors. There was a lot, like I said, there was a lot of psychology around that and a lot of like pepping people up to kind of take this new direction, because traditionally how it had been is engineering would sit in this, literally, honestly, a darkened room. I don't know if you guys prefer living, working in a darkened room, but these guys did. They were in this darkened room, and no one really knew what they're working on or when they were working on it. They'd just be cracking away, and it actually caused, for them anyway, it caused some issues with some dodgy code not getting checked properly. But the point I'm making is that we wanted to rally everybody around this cause. And this was a vehicle tracking software, and we were reimagining what they were doing previously, and we're bringing it up to date, making it work on mobile and all these other cool stuff we wanted to do. So we gave it a name. We gave it some ownership. I gave it a personality of what it meant to the organization and what it meant to the now product team that we'd built. And so we called it Janice, which I think it's like one of the developers came up with it, and I think it means like to rebirth or something. So that's cool. It meant something to them, so that's what's important. It means something to them. We put a name behind it, and we're all going to do it together. So designers should be providing, to tell the story of what we're building and why we're building it, they should be doing stuff like this. They should be doing sketches to articulate their ideas, get it down really fast, then taking it to sort of wireframing. This is Balsamic. I don't know if you guys have used that before, but you can rapidly build these things. These are like kind of pre-made, and just drag them all in. This is an app that I built with a team that did something like Foursquare. And so we had this, and we literally built the whole app like this, like in clickable prototypes, and we used Envision, which as I mentioned previously, to sort of make that work. And then we were able to discuss that, talk about that, actually put that into customers' hands, surprisingly, in that like dirty state. And then take it into high fidelity, so low fidelity and high fidelity, where we actually put more design time into how it was going to look and how it was going to feel. So you can get it all right, and then developers are already starting to develop stuff in the back end, and they know they can get on with before they've even seen design. So tools are like rapidly changing for designers, and designers are becoming more and more, whether you like it or not, the forefront of the product lead and what we're going to be doing. When I first started Launch Cloud, there was a lot of thing about having a developer lead to sort of obviously lead the company and where we were going, and having developer founders. Where now I believe the shift has definitely changed, where we need product people and we need designers to be leading what we should be building and shaping. And I see the evidence in the products and the tool sets that the designers are being given now. So Envision is that clickable prototype. Well, that's how they started out, right? They started out as a clickable prototype tool. And then they built Kanban in there, and they did a whiteboard so you could sketch and collaborate. But you can make very, very advanced clickable prototypes. And they've built this now, which I'll show you in a second. And then Sketch is a design program. Has anyone heard of Sketch? Cool, it's catching on. A few years ago, when I first started using it, it was about 3 or 4 years ago, and no one had heard of it. And there was but man, it was such a dream after coming from Photoshop to use Sketch. And they're doing some really, really exciting stuff. So Sketch is starting to move more into live prototyping as well. So these two communicate. But you can do live prototyping and animations in Sketch now to get you further along. And then we use this one, which is called Zeppelin. And Zeppelin connects with Sketch. And the idea, so what happens is the design files go up to Sketch, and the developers then have all the measurements there for them. They can hover over it, see the measurements, get the color codes, all that. So what's happening here is the code is starting to get done for them. And then Studio, which is a product that Envision have created, is like Sketch, but with even more advanced animations and snippets of code that can be pulled out. So the way things are going, guys, is it's only a matter of time that these design tools will just straight out output code, right? So that hopefully more and more front-end stuff is done, and then we can just concentrate on the back end and those things. It's going to happen, for sure. It's already starting to happen. So rapid prototyping is here already. We're already here now, and we can already make stuff, use it, play with it to a massive degree. And what's next is the output of code. So these tools, this is kind of the people that are using these tools right now. So we've got Envision, we've got Lyft, Netflix, Amazon, Twitter, Airbnb, and then Sketch, Google, Apple, Stripe, Facebook, Nintendo. And what I see here is arguably the most innovative product companies out there right now, okay? Building the coolest stuff with the coolest design. I cry every time some of these people bring out new websites. I'm like, gee, that's so good. Gee, that's so good. Stripe, oh my gosh, their design is off the chain. So these guys see that change. They see that shift. They're first on it. I mean, they had these testimonials, obviously, on their website for a while, and they have been there for ages. I think it's like about 6 years I've been using InVision, and Netflix has always been on there. So imagine what they're learning. So we can really make some great stuff together, guys. We can make some amazing products. But we need to work together to create the ultimate dream team, that product team. And what we need is those right tools. We need good communications. We need good culture. And the culture, like I said, has been so important to communicate the product direction and what we're trying to do. And then good processes and systems, so Kanbans and validation of ideas and products to progress it through. Guys, I'm a little bit short, but I'd love to open the floor up and get some questions out. And my good friend Heather recommended I brought some swag with me to try and get people's lips a bit loose. So I've got some Launchpad stuff if you want it. So say again?
A book bag, nice, I'll take it.
It's actually an SAS bag, all right? Not a kid's bag. So I've got some T-shirts, and I've got some stickers, and I've got some pin badges. So has anyone got any questions? And they can have bits. Hey man, how you doing? What's your name? What's your name, sorry? Dimitar. Okay, Dimitar. Good to meet you. And where do you come from?
So I live in London.
Uh-huh.
I work for Expedia.
Okay, very cool.
And my question is, usually when I see disagreements between the teams, like product design and so on, is when people are trying to do something that is not customer-facing, and if there won't be like an immediate result. Let's say you want to refactor some code or something like that. That's when cards get stuck.
Yeah.
What do you think about that? Do you have any kind of suggestions about that kind of problem?
So this is just to unbox it a little bit. So you're producing internal stuff that's never going to touch the customer and the consumer that you guys need to use internally.
No, let's say refactoring some code will make us faster in the future.
Uh-huh.
But that can be hard to communicate to other teams that are not so technical.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when the cards get stuck. Because otherwise you have support from everyone.
Yeah.
You just talk to them, send them an email, and say, okay, let's build this. But
yeah.
If it's something that it's hard to grasp for them, that's when things start to move slowly.
And how is that being communicated today? Like, how are you just saying this needs to be refactored? We're in desperate need, and that's it. And then.
Well, we speak to them, and yeah, but it's a bit hard to explain sometimes.
Yeah, absolutely. So I would always try and lean on that data stuff. So if you could show how much longer it's taking something to load, and maybe potential churn because of that, or loss because of that, or potential extra cost, that's a great way. And it depends who you're evangelizing this to, right? If it's a salesperson or whatever, you can put it to cost and sales. So it depends who you're speaking to, but I would say that, yeah, if you can tie it back to data, right, how this is detrimentally affecting us, or is going to affect other more, important things to them in the future, because we need to come back to this, then that's a good way.
I think this is about like technical debt as well in general. Like you evolve, you make a product, you do stuff, and then you have a bunch of technical debt that doesn't necessarily give you business value as in a new feature or anything. I think that's what.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you should be obviously developing quickly and rapidly, and not building the most pretty stuff at first in the back end, and then you want to refactor and tidy it up. And I think if everyone's been brought on the journey, hopefully everyone is bought into making something more stable over time. So I think there's a really good book by Seth Godin called Tribes. Has anyone heard of that? I talk about it a lot in my marketing strategy courses. And I apply it to marketing, right? But in his book, he talks about how you can, the tribe being your co-workers and your business, how you can rally them around an idea and a concept of doing stuff. So if they can be brought on board with sort of product validation, and then obviously infrastructure improvements as well, and slipping them through and making a bit of commitment. Anyway, check out the Seth Godin book, because it will give you some really great tips and tricks about how you can evangelize and lead your team. Because if you know those things are important and they're not getting done, you might need to be that leader that makes that happen. And the Seth Godin book is a great place to start on that. Okay, I want to ask more questions. So, would you like? I've got these t-shirts. They're okay. The t-shirts are okay. But I've got some pin. Do you want a pin badge or some stickers? I did promise swag. I'll get. And the guys at the back. There was the guy in the green jumper, please. Yeah.
And so I'm just really trying to get the main feel the advantages and the main differences are between the two. Because like I say, from my understanding, it's just doing, like you say, the simple thing and seeing if it is actually what we want before we actually spend any time. Whereas in Agile, we think we know what you want to start building something.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I was just really looking for...
Yeah. You have hit the nail on the head, but we can all refine that a little bit more, right? So we... No, I think it's accurate, but I wouldn't call it speed. I would call... Well, speed is important. Speed is a great byproduct. But it's about getting something in people's hands and learning and measuring as quickly as possible. Because you're saying with Agile, we're already determined we know what you want, and now we're going to go and crack on and build it. And Lean doesn't take into consideration that we know what the hell we're talking about. We're thinking we've got a rough idea, we know what we're talking about, and that measurement and that learning and that change is the most important part. And the fact that you can deploy things quicker, it feels nice. It feels warm and fuzzy inside. Because there's nothing more depressing than working on a product for months and months or years and not really seeing any progress. So it can give a lot of morale. So you can still do... I know a lot of people, and kind of internally we do this a bit, it's kind of blend the Lean and the Agile together to create this, like we scope it out. And that's kind of what that second Kanban was like the scoping. Let's build our hypothesis down on here and our research and our screenshots down here and our customer comments. And then but then you go, okay, good. What's the least we can build to prove that hypothesis? And then backing up that question, which is what does success look like for the customer? And I think the hardest thing is when you have more resource and a bigger organization is you want to build it because you probably could get it done. But I would always lean on Lean. Again, for the psychology of the morale of the team, it's good to deploy stuff and feel like we're constantly building the right thing. Because you can go, the danger obviously is you go a long way, you realize you've built something that no one gives a crap about. And that's the thing, there's lots of things in products that nobody uses. And if you're not tracking it through things like Mixpanel, or you're not interviewing people, you don't know what's redundant, not being used. So it stops that stuff happening. Does that answer? Yeah.
I think I was just really looking for...
To back you up. You are right, but yeah, like it's not the emphasis on speed, I would say. The emphasis is on validation. Yeah. There was another question at the back. And I'll get you can come and get some stickers. I won't walk around like that.
I don't feel like you really answered Dimitri's question, to be honest.
Fair enough. Yes. Yes.
You don't understand technical depth because you never code.
I have coded, but yeah.
It's like an abstract concept.
Yeah.
It exists there.
Yeah.
And then it's up to us to convince people that it actually exists and it's actually important.
Right.
But then I don't think it should be up to us to try and explain it to people who don't code.
You're wrong. So I think you're wrong because I think what I'm trying to do, right, with that, what I explained happened in America, is I don't see us as developers and engineers and designers. I see us as the product team. We're the guys that are that Ron Burgundy team going into battle to build the right thing. And I think we should be all leaders of what we do and evangelists of what we do. And if we believe enough that this thing should be built, we should be able to articulate it to our team and keep us all in the loop and keep us kind of what's going on. So designers, there's often times I design something knowing kind of the way we built things in the past so we can deploy more rapidly and quickly. So why I think, sorry, you're wrong, just being abrasive there, is that I feel like it is our responsibility to be evangelists of our product and our disciplines. No, yeah, we need measurements and data and stuff. And so Michael, one of our lead devs at LaunchCloud, me and him, the product meeting for us is that the product team, like what's on deck, what's being built, and then we talk about investments we need to make in infrastructure. Like he's sometimes going, Matt, this is really cool, but we just need to spend a bit more time over here. I just need to spend a few days, or I need to spend a week over here. And I say, okay, cool, we've got these customer things that we're working on right now, and we work it out together. And it's never, ever abrasive. It's never, ever confrontational. It's always like, let's do this, let's make this happen. And sometimes things have to take priority. And so my job is to evangelize customers, product, and sales. And his job is to evangelize to me why we need to be building stuff. But we're never like knocking heads. We're always trying to balance out what the right thing is to build with our disciplines.
Something to add to that, what I've found has worked over the years is essentially coming up with the right metaphor for explaining technical debt to someone. Like technical debt is clearly a financial metaphor, so business people get it. But if you're like working for a restaurant, essentially trying to explain explain to them, oh, we have to clean the kitchen before we can make the next meal. They're like, oh yeah, no, that makes perfect
Yeah.
sense. If it's somebody working with art or design, we have to clean the paintbrushes before we can, start painting again. Until you can communicate a metaphor that explains what technical debt is to them, they don't get it. It's just an abstract concept. So making it real for them.
Absolutely, and I think it depends where you are in this transformation within your team. Like, once you become a mature product team, those communications become very, very, very easy to do, where at the beginning you might have to really break it down for some of them, especially some of the business people as well. Hello, there's some over here. I'll come to you in a second. Hello.
So you mentioned earlier in your slides that your design folk and your product people should be looking to learn about code and some stuff like that. Probably not all that interested in the minutiae of my daily work. What's your recommendation on how far down the rabbit hole you have to take them for it to be of use?
Yeah, I don't think they need to learn the code. Because that's maybe not a good use of their time. But like I said, understanding the libraries that are being used, the way the API is constructed, and the dependencies that exist when they do stuff, or the loads that exist. And again, this comes out, the relevant stuff comes out in these product meetings. One of the big bits you can do really well is if you can have a product meeting weekly, these things will become more obvious, what they need to know and what they don't need to know. And if they're hungry to learn, again, that's what comes from tribes. Be that leader and try and educate them. Maybe you could do a little meetup group, get some pizza, get some beers, and start talking about, okay, look, this is what we're working on at the moment and why it's important. And if they give a shit about their job and product, for real, they'd love to learn. So yeah, I think that's what I would do. Hello, you all right?
I was just going to make a comment about technical debt. Speaking as a non-developer, but always working with developers and everything, it's always important, I feel like, for everyone to come together and recognize we're all doing this for the value of what we're creating. So if you position technical debt as to what is the business value of it, it always communicates to non-developers, because in the end, it's not just because it's the right thing to do, it's because there's an actual value on the other side of it. And so if you talk about the time saved, page loads, whatever it is that you're basically increasing the value of your product on, that communicates, I feel like, very loudly, very clearly.
Yeah, and in a startup, like I have to deal with sales and I have to deal with product design, and I have to choose my battles. I'd love to just sit there all day and design cool stuff and queue it up and get it through, but I have to learn my disciplines and go, no, it's important that I go and service this person, or I go and find some more leads for us, or I'll say to the guys, we need to leave the tech guys alone completely. Like, I know this there might be a customer thing. Try and help them, delay them, or whatever, because he needs to get on with the technical debt. He needs to be getting on with that. And so it's all understand that. And like you say, we're a team. We're a product team, and we're trying to build something. We're not a dev team, a design team, sales team. We're a product team.
And just another note, like for developers, like when you're doing these large refactor projects that take multiple months and even into a year, like it can be very difficult to get that across to the rest of the company that you're just going to be holed up in a room for a year with nothing to show for it from their perspective. So one of the things that I always try to do as a CTO is make sure that every single check-in has something that they can see, even if it's just a button moved a little bit or something, so that they can see. I mean, just throw something in there so that they can be like, yes, there's progress, because that actually helps sell it.
Yeah.
They're never going to understand that we're spending all this time to just make the database 3 milliseconds faster.
Yeah. And that the Kanban as well, like, is a great way of bringing people on board and letting them know what's going on in a transparent way, because it helps you guys and helps us organize ourselves anyway. It's a good practice, but it's a pinboard up there that people can see, and they can see stuff moving across. So that's a visual way of doing that as well. Hello.
Hi, my name is Andre. I work for Writing here in London. So my question would be, as a UX guy, how often do you have to work with developers who don't actually care about the product? As in,
they're sacked.
They don't care about the features. They're just like, okay, you decide, you give me the feature, I'll do it.
A front-end guy, particularly, did you say? How often do I deal with front-end people, did you say?
How often do you have to work with these kind of people, and how does it affect you? If it affects
Yeah, like, well, when we hire people, we simply wouldn't hire them. But let me frame it like this and see if it helps you. Like, so what I look for in somebody is, okay, so I use the example of like a designer not giving you all the screens, right? And I kind of encourage a front-end developer to challenge me and help me make it better and use better kind of ways of doing things or good animations. So I won't give him all the or him or her all the answers, but I'll explain why, and we'll explain it and we'll talk around it, and I'll let them take ownership over certain things and certain decisions together. And I also will not give them a responsive feel. So I won't say this is what it should look on mobile and this is what it should look on desktop. We will discuss it and work it, and I like them to work with me and problem solve, so they give a crap about it, and they give a crap about how the experience feels, and they come to their conclusions why it does or doesn't work. And once you have that going, oh, it's beautiful. You can deploy really quickly, you can make great stuff. They feel more fulfilled in their role, because I think if you micromanage people and you tell people, oh, move this over here, move that over there, it's going to pee them off. So if you can work together like that, it works really well for us.
Right, so conversely, would it effective if a developer would be too opinionated? As in, like, okay, let's put this in, let's put this feature in, let's postpone the other thing. The reason I'm asking is because, well, I work on a like a public-facing product on a large scale, and most of the devs that we have in our organization have been users of the product before actually working on it. Right, so everybody has their opinion on what it should look like. I mean, I'm a backend dev and I have opinions, and I just don't want to be a pain for the UX guy.
Do you feel like you're being a pain to him or her?
I know that I'm not the average user, and probably my opinions on what the product should look like are not necessarily valid. That's based on my experience.
Yeah, so that key word in there was evangelist. We're all evangelists of what we do, and if you should feel, it should be an open forum to go and discuss these things in a product meeting. And again, if these meetings don't exist in your organization, and they're not long things, they're stand-ups, they're 5-10 minutes, this is what's happening, this is going, any points we'd like to bring up. And then if you feel very passionate and strong about it, I would be a fool not to listen to you. And that's the same with my dev team and my front-end developers. Like, I want them to tell and challenge. That's what we're there for together. It's not for the I'm saying a design should lead it, because the designer hopefully should be like, that makes total sense, that makes great sense to the user. And that also backs up with this other stuff that I've got here. And they're kind of like conducting it, but with their team's inside knowledge. So again, it sounds like it could be just a little tweak maybe you could try and make in the hierarchy to try and help everyone make sure they're there, if they feel passionate enough that it's surfaced correctly. Was there a hand down here? No. Hello, mate.
To what degree would you recommend documenting a feature or a specification?
Do you mean for technical use or for public?
For technical use.
Okay. Oh, so documenting a use case before we build it.
Yeah, before or during.
Yeah. I mean, that's what we want to try and do. Those Kanbans in that scoping section is screenshots, examples of how competitors have done it or other products have done it. Customer snippets. Oh, I love this. I hated this. I can't do this. How do you do this? And you build a case for it. So that's your documenting area. And sometimes it's nice to write a little mini story like, this would be good. And then what I do is I talk to customers regularly, and I say, if we did this and did that, how would that look to you, or what would that feel like to you? Or and we've got nothing built, and then maybe I'll show them some designs and stuff. So the idea is we bring all that information together, because what it's my job to do is evangelize it to the team. Say, look, we should be working on this as an urgency because of this, this, and this. This is what I believe. And then I either get support or I don't. It's that's how it works. Does that make sense? Cool. Any more? Oh, guys, I think that was really great. I want to thank you very much for your time. You've been a great audience. Thank you very much. Give yourself a clap. Thank you.